Joining us now, we're very pleased to have Condoleezza Rice, Secretary of State for President George W. Bush, joining us before you head in. So good to have you with us. Thank you very much for being here today. We just listened to Bill Hemmer talking about the lineup of those who will eulogize President Bush 41 today, and you're going to watch your former boss, W, as he's known, do that. Big day for him.
It's a big day for him, and it's a big day to remember as a country the presidency and the extraordinary contributions of George H.W. Bush. I was fortunate to be on his National Security Council staff, and he really is the epitome of a public servant. He taught me a lot about how to be a public servant.
You know, you were on the National Security Council as the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe Affairs Advisor. This is during the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the reunification of Germany. I mean, Angela Merkel is here because she's saying how much the 41st president meant to Germany.
Right. I'm so touched by her presence here. You know, the humility of this man was such that he rarely made it about himself. He never did. And he rarely even acknowledged how important his role had been in ending the Cold War peacefully. I remember the famous story when we went to the Oval Office after the Berlin Wall fell, and it was, Mr. President, you have to go to Berlin for Truman and for Kennedy. And he said, what would I do, dance on the wall? But he also said, this is a German moment and not an American moment. And I think that's what the Germans appreciated, was his faith in their democracy, his faith in their friendship and our alliance. And he managed to ease a great superpower to its end without really rancor or without danger, and that's extraordinary.
It's fascinating because he also pointed out that he didn't want to rub it in the face of Gorbachev, and he didn't want to put him in a difficult position with the sort of iron guard of the Kremlin rebelling against that. And also, with regard to the reunification of Germany, that was something that Bush 41 really nudged before some other leaders were quite ready for it.
Not only leaders, but his staff. I remember when he said, well, Germany ought to unify, and we didn't yet have a position as a government on German unification. And Brent Scowcroft said, well, I guess we do now. We're for it. And then we could work to bring others along. And it's really important to remember that for Margaret Thatcher or for Francois Mitterrand, who had been children during the war, it was hard to imagine a unified Germany that could be a peaceful and democratic Germany. And George H.W. Bush really led them to that place through his personal diplomacy, through his reassurance, through his lack of wanting to dance on the grave of the Soviet Union. He allowed Gorbachev to take really difficult decisions along the way. And so we just can't overestimate the role that he played at that time.
We're talking this week about his accomplishments, both in foreign policy and during his whole term domestically. But a lot of what we're hearing are the stories about his humanity, the stories about the people that he touched that didn't think that they were going to get the letter or the attention or something like that.
Yes, he was the consummate personal touch person. He believed in it. Even with leaders, he wanted to be in touch with them, to develop relationships before he had to ask them to do something hard. And it is, to my mind, totally fitting that one of his great domestic achievements was the Americans with Disabilities Act, because it spoke to his compassion. It spoke to his humanity. I'm also just always amazed at how friends around this family from decades and decades and decades ago. That says a lot about who the Bushes are, and my old boss, George W. Bush, very much made in that mold, but this was the patriarch of a great family, and he and his generation are going to be missed.
He also liked to ride his boat really fast. With Putin and his security guard in it, he got a kick out of being able to do those things later in his life as well, right?
Yes, and jump out of airplanes. He never stopped living, and that's the one great thing we can celebrate in this life. This was a life really well lived.
He loved to serve the country. You, like him, served in a number of different jobs, National Security Advisor, Secretary of State. Think about going back in?
No, thank you very much. I've done my part. And in some ways, this is a reminder that you get your time to try and serve the country. You do your very best. You make your mistakes because human beings do. But what George H.W. Bush stood for, and reminds all of us who had the honor to be in public service, is that you have to have a deep and abiding love for America, a belief in what America can achieve, a belief in what America is, both at home and abroad. And the fact that there are so many people here, they'll be here from Kennebunkport and from Houston, they'll be here from his time in the Northeast, and they'll be here from across the world, because that's the way that he touched people as a public servant. If we can get to the end of our lives and think that we've done that, it's enough.
Secretary Rice, we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
So much. Wonderful to have you with us this morning.
Thank you.